What if your home doesn't actually need more furniture, more expensive decor, or a bigger renovation to look like it was designed by a professional? What if the real difference is simply knowing how to arrange what you already have? That's the secret behind many beautiful interiors. Great design isn't always about buying more. It's about creating better relationships between the things already in the room. Sometimes, a small adjustment in placement or proportion can change the entire feeling of a space without requiring you to purchase anything new. And once you understand these 5 simple rules, you'll start noticing exactly why some homes feel effortlessly polished, while others feel unfinished, even when they contain expensive furniture. The difference is often not the price of the objects, but the way they work together. Let's start with the rule that can instantly transform almost any surface. Number 1. Create visual balance with the rule of 3. Look at your coffee table, bedside table, or entryway console. If the decor feels random, the problem may not be the objects themselves. It may be how they're grouped and how your eyes move between them. 3 objects often create a more natural composition than 2 matching pieces. The trick is to vary their height and scale so the arrangement feels dynamic rather than flat. Think tall, medium, and small. A tall vase or lamp becomes the visual anchor. A stack of books or smaller frame creates the middle layer. Then a bowl, candle, or small decorative object completes the arrangement. But there's another detail that makes this work. Don't line everything up like products on a store shelf. Bring the objects closer together and create a loose triangular arrangement. Let one piece sit slightly forward while another sits behind it. This creates depth and makes the whole group feel more natural and intentional. Suddenly, 3 ordinary objects begin to feel like one intentional design moment. Instead of seeing 3 separate things, your eye begins to see one connected composition. And this idea works far beyond coffee tables. On larger surfaces, you can expand the same principle into groups of 5 or 7, while still varying heights and keeping the arrangement visually connected. The goal isn't to follow a strict formula, it's to create a grouping that feels balanced and easy for the eye to understand. Number 2, give your room a clear color hierarchy. One of the easiest ways to make a room feel chaotic is to let every color compete for attention. Instead, think of your room as having a dominant color, a supporting color, and an accent. The dominant color covers the largest visual areas, such as walls or major cabinetry. This creates the background of the room and gives everything else a foundation to work from. Then comes the secondary color, which can appear through furniture, curtains, bedding, or larger decorative pieces. This adds contrast and personality while still supporting the main color. Finally, you have your accent color. This is where you can be adventurous. The accent doesn't need to cover a large area. Sometimes a few carefully placed details are enough to make the whole room feel more interesting. But there's one mistake to avoid: using that accent color only once. If you put a bright color on a single cushion and nowhere else, it can look accidental. Repeat that color subtly in 2 or 3 other places: a piece of artwork, a vase, a book, or another small detail. The room begins to feel more cohesive because the same visual idea appears in different places without becoming repetitive. And this leads to a surprisingly important rule that many people overlook. Number 3, stop hanging artwork too high. A beautiful piece of art can make a room feel sophisticated. The common mistake is treating the wall as the only thing that matters. People center artwork according to the empty wall instead of considering the furniture underneath it. If artwork hangs above a sofa, console, or bed, it should visually belong to that furniture. It should feel like part of the same arrangement rather than something floating independently on the wall. Keep the gap between the furniture and the artwork relatively small, rather than leaving a huge empty space between them. The exact measurement can vary depending on the room, but the principle is simple. Artwork should feel connected to what's beneath it. When the relationship works, the sofa and artwork stop looking like 2 unrelated objects. They become one composition. And here's where things get even more interesting. Number 4, use texture instead of constantly adding pattern. When people think a room looks boring, they often reach for another pattern. A patterned rug, patterned cushions, patterned wallpaper. But too many competing patterns can make a room feel visually exhausted. Even when each individual pattern looks beautiful, combining too many of them can create a space where your eyes don't know where to settle. Texture creates a different kind of richness. Imagine a smooth leather chair beside a chunky woven blanket. Picture matte ceramic against polished stone, or a soft rug underneath a structured piece of furniture. The colors can remain simple while the materials create depth. That's what makes texture so powerful. It gives the eye something interesting to discover without making the room feel noisy. Instead of adding more visual information through patterns, you're creating variety through the way different materials look and feel. They also tend to age beautifully, which means your room can continue feeling interesting even as trends come and go. Which brings us to the final rule, and this may be the one that makes the biggest difference. Number 5. Learn to appreciate empty space. Most people walk into an empty corner and immediately think, "What can I put there?" But professional design often asks a completely different question. Does anything need to go there? Empty space gives your important pieces room to breathe. Think about music. If every second were filled with sound, there would be no rhythm. The quiet moments are what make the important notes stand out. Interior design works the same way. If your coffee table is already visually interesting, you may not need a crowded rug underneath it. If one wall contains a strong piece of artwork, the wall beside it might benefit from remaining quiet. Space can actually make a room feel more luxurious because it gives your eyes time to rest and allows important objects to receive more attention. Try this today. Walk through one room and identify the area that feels visually overloaded. Remove a few things, not everything, just enough to create breathing room. Then leave it alone for a while. You may initially think the room looks empty, but after some time, you may realize something has changed. The room feels calmer, and suddenly, the space feels more polished without you buying anything. That's the deeper lesson behind all 5 rules. Designer-looking homes aren't necessarily filled with extraordinary objects. They're built around ordinary objects arranged with extraordinary intention. Because sometimes the most luxurious thing you can add to a room is nothing at all. And once you start seeing design this way, you may never look at your own home quite the same again. You may start noticing that the rooms you love most aren't necessarily the ones with the most decoration. They're the ones where every choice feels deliberate, and where the space itself feels comfortable and complete. If you found these ideas useful, give the video a like, subscribe for more practical design inspiration, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments which of these 5 rules you're going to try first.